Hello, welcome to the first ever episode of the Hummus Project. I've got all my ingredients here. I'm going to make my first ever hummus. I've never made hummus before, and my intention is to make a series of hummuses, if that's the correct plural term for hummus, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm going to make a whole bunch of hummus, and every time I'm going to retool it a little bit and try and improve and fine-tune it until I've made perfect hummus. We have here salt, pepper, Moroccan herbs. You're supposed to put in cumin. Different recipes suggest different herbs. We just have a mix of Moroccan herbs, which is mainly cumin and cilantro, a little bit of onion, some mint, some black pepper, things like that, but we probably won't be putting much of that in. We also have some lemons, some baking powder. We have tahini, one of the most important, if not the most important ingredients. We have some fine olive oil from Albacete in Castilla-La Mancha, and we have our chickpeas. Garbanzo beans, I think they call them in America, but I call them chickpeas. That's what I've always called them. And we don't have any measurement equipment. We don't have any weighing scales, so we're using one of these Nutella glasses. You're probably familiar with them. In here we have 2.5 Nutella glasses of chickpeas, so you can look that up and find out what that is in weight or volume. I'm going to get started now. My chickpeas have been drained, or not drained, soaked in water for about 1.5 days. It's maybe almost 2 days. You're supposed to do it for 1 day. We got lazy, so they'll be a little more soaked, so we'll probably boil them a little less. So now I'm gonna go boil these chickpeas. Okay, so got my chickpeas. I'm gonna rinse these off first. I'm gonna use just a small little saucepan lid to try and keep the chickpeas in the bowl while I drain the water. So let's throw out this water. Okay, and just lost one chickpea in the process, not too bad. And now I'm going to throw in some fresh water just to clean them up a little bit. Let's see, give it a bit of a shake. Yeah, and same again, just throw out the water, leaving only the chickpeas. Again, I've never done this before, so don't take my word for any of this, but this is what I'm doing, so it's kind of an experiment. Now we have our drained chickpeas. I've got a pot of boiling water here. I'm going to throw in some salt. So just put a little bit of salt into the water, or a lot of salt, whatever you prefer. And I'm going to put the chickpeas in. Be careful that you don't splash any of the boiling hot water onto yourself. In fact, I'm going to use one of these bad boys. So let's see. Yep. And we're going to boil these chickpeas for 1 to 2 hours, probably closer to 2 hours now. Like I said before, we soaked the chickpeas a little longer than you're supposed to, so that may affect the amount of time that we boil the chickpeas for, but probably not too drastically. And I think I can probably just scoop the rest of them in. Ooh, I am splashing myself a little bit. And there we go. Now, one thing it says in a lot of recipes is to add just a little bit of baking powder. That will make them less gassy and maybe a little more tender. So I'm going to go with 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And again, sort of an experiment, but comes recommended. So there's 1, and that's quite a heaped one, but anyway, whatever. Who's counting? Just give that a little bit of a mix. Let it soak in. And we're going to leave these chickpeas to boil for, like I said, about 2 hours. Hopefully by then they'll be really nice and tender and we'll be able to mash them quite easily. So yeah, that's on full heat. Time for a 2-hour break. Okay, so it's 2 hours later and we now have our fully boiled chickpeas. The skins come off a bit. Just a note, I think we put in a little bit too much baking soda because the thing kind of bubbled up and almost overflowed. No problem, we just lowered the heat a little bit. It was still boiling, it was still fine. And yeah, actually I don't think it took 2 hours to get them nice and soft. I'm going to give them a little mash before I sort of pulverize them with the food processor. Don't know how effective this is going to be, but just try and mush them up a little bit. As you can see, they are soft, they are mashing, but they have got some firmness to them. They haven't completely disintegrated over the course of the last couple of hours. And looking at this, I don't know if there's much point. Actually, oh no, it is actually, yeah. In some sort of old school hummus recipes, they don't use a food processor. Obviously, hummus predates the food processor by thousands of years, so they never used to. And if you go to a lot of Middle Eastern restaurants or North African restaurants, they won't actually use a food processor. They'll just mash them and they'll actually serve you your hummus warm rather than refrigerated as I'm used to eating it. So now, yeah, this is really mashing quite well. I'm almost tempted to not use the food processor and just give it a thorough mash with this, but I think for this first episode I'm gonna go for the most sort of conventional type of hummus you're gonna end up eating or buying, and that would be using a food processor. So we'll leave that masher to the side for a minute now, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a food processing. So let's see. Yeah, and you can see straight away it's getting that really creamy look that hummus has. And obviously we haven't added the tahini or any of the other ingredients yet, so I'm not going to be too thorough right now because it will be mixed again several times before it's finished. But just a little bit of a mix, get rid of some of the bigger chunks, and yeah, I think it's probably ready for the tahini now. So I'm just going to leave that on the side for a minute. Here's our tahini. Now, I've heard that you should add about 1/5 of the amount of chickpeas that you used in terms of tahini. Obviously, here's our Nutella glass again. Now, we're not going to actually pour it into the Nutella glass and use it in that way. We're going to just use a tablespoon. So I'll try and imagine that Nutella glass, and I'm going to give it a bit of a stir first because it's quite thick and pasty. I don't know if you can see that. If I lift the spoon out, you'll see the way it looks, but it's separated. It's probably been there for quite a while. I think tahini keeps quite well. I see it in stores not refrigerated, and you know, it looks like the type of product that you could kind of have for a long time, but obviously don't quote me on that. We're getting there, we're getting there. I think we'll just leave it at that because there is a little bit left on the spoon, but I don't think that's going to matter too much. So I'm going to imagine that Nutella glass, and I'm going to try and, or should I, perhaps I should use the Nutella glass. Yeah, I'm going to, because it's going to be kind of tricky to imagine that. Let's see, I'll just go for a pour, hold it over the hummus just in case, and that's about right. Let's just pour that in. And is quite liquidic, not a huge amount left in the glass, but maybe I might just put in a little bit more for good measure. I'll just try and scrape off what's in the jar, and maybe I could even use this spoon to stir the chickpeas, being that it's got that lump of hard condensed tahini. For those who don't know, tahini is sesame seed paste. Now, I don't know if it contains anything other than sesame seeds. I should know that, of course, but that's for a future episode when I've actually done some research. But I know it to be sesame seed paste, and when you smell it and you know that it's sesame seed paste, you can definitely get a sense of those sesame seeds. I'm just going to use my thumb to just get rid of some of that, and yeah, I think we're in business. So now we've added the tahini. When we pulverize it this time, it may get a little smoother, a little creamier. We'll have to see. So let's have a look at what happens. You can definitely see that classic hummus color emerging. A lighter shade than we had when it was just the chickpeas. And again, not a full mix this time because we still have to add lemon juice, which is crucial to the process. So before I do that, I'm just going to take this hummus out of the way for a minute and clear my table just a little bit. Get rid of some of these ingredients. And here we have our lemons. Let's get rid of this spoon as well. I've got one of these. Very standard in any kitchen, I think. Of course, you could just use your hands, or I know there's lots of different ways to squeeze lemons, but what the heck, we'll just give this a try. So let's see. I haven't actually used one of these for a long time. It's probably a very common thing for most people to be using an implement like this, but when I'm squeezing lemons, I usually just use my hand. But, you know, let's see if this gives us any more juice than I'm used to. So really mince it down. We want as much lemon as possible. And yeah, wow, that was really effective. Let's go for the second lemon. Second lemon, it's still the first lemon, second half. They suggest that you equate the amount of lemon juice to that of the tahini. So in our case, again, that would be half a Nutella glass, which is our standard for measurement. I think I've got more or less all of that out now, so I'm going to get a clean Nutella glass and see, because that one's now completely covered in tahini, and see how much lemon juice we have here. Let's see. We're way off. We're way off. Okay, we're gonna need another lemon. Let's see. Here we go. Lemons. Okay, I'm just gonna cut this in half. Now, let me see. That was one lemon. I'm not even sure if this lemon alone is going to do it. And I do tend to like a lot of lemon flavoring in when I make guacamole or mojitos or anything really that involves lemon juice. I tend to use a lot of lemons and maybe go a little heavy on the lemon compared to other people's tastes, but I don't know, maybe on this occasion we should try and stick to convention because I want to have some sort of standard hummus flavor with which to compare my future hummuses. So there's a second lemon. Let's see where that gets us up to in the glass. And we are about halfway. So we're about at that tahini level. So let's go with that. I'm just going to get rid of some of these things here I have on the table. Get rid of that and get rid of this guy. Obviously this is going to, well, it's not going to be that difficult to clean. I thought it was going to be really difficult, but no, it looks like it's going to be quite easy to clean. And let's bring this guy back onto the table. So give him one last little mix around to get all that tahini and chickpea mixed together. I can still see the occasional lump of chickpea, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. And the classic recipes usually suggest that you keep it chunky and you keep bits of chickpea here and there. Of course, if you buy it in the supermarket, it's completely smooth. So here we go, lemon juice. And that should make a huge difference both to the flavor and the consistency. So let's try not to splash it out. Oh yeah, this is looking great. This is looking fantastic. Like I said, it's my first time ever making hummus. So I'm not expecting the tastiest hummus I've ever had. But I've got a sneaking suspicion that it's going to taste pretty damn good. So, let's go. One of those guys. Okay. Now, when we boiled the chickpeas earlier, we poured all of the boiling water into the sink, except for a little bit, which we kept. And we're going to use that to sort of thin out the hummus. Now, I'm not going to just tip this entire bowl into the hummus, because that would probably be overkill. So I'm just going to add it bit by bit and wait till we have a consistency that we like. And obviously this is completely subjective. Some people like their hummus almost like a liquid, and other people like their hummus very, very thick. I'm probably fall slightly towards the thicker end of the spectrum. I think now would probably be a good time to flavor it. So I'm gonna throw in some salt and some pepper and some herbs. We're actually a little low on salt, so I'm probably going to add a bit more later. Let's put in some pepper. Now, I like a lot of pepper on anything, really. A lot of salt, a lot of pepper. Salt is really bad for you, I know, but I like a lot of pepper. More than your average person. This might look like a lot, but I'm going to put a lot more on later, I think. But this is just for now. And some of these Moroccan herbs. So, we'll see how well they work. I'm not going to put in much of that, actually, because the thing about hummus is you kind of tend to eat it with a lot of other flavors in a sandwich, or, well, that's how I usually eat it. Although hopefully this is nice enough to just eat on its own with some bread. We've got a beautiful, beautiful consistency here. Very creamy. I wonder how fattening hummus is, because it looks really, really creamy. Now, how chunky or how smooth do you make it? Probably down to your own personal taste, I'd say. I feel like I'm nearing the end of this, and I can see the little specks of black pepper in it, which look really, really nice. Look at that, beautiful. Okay, I'm going to give it a taste. Get my little piece of bread, and yeah, let's have a taste. Weird. That tastes peculiar. I may have used a little too much tahini because it's quite bitter, and I think I might put in half a lemon more. Very happy with the consistency, although obviously that will change if I do put in some more lemon juice. Although the lemon flavour is very apparent, so let me think. It's also one of the first times I've ever had hummus warm. I've had hummus in falafel wraps, and the hummus is somewhat warmed by its surrounding ingredients, but I've never really had the hummus itself warm. Just tasted just hummus and bread, and that be warm. So that's throwing me a little. The consistency is all right. It's not amazing. I can't quite put my finger on what is wrong with it. Let me try a little more. Grab some more bread over here. Let's see. Confusingly, I now think there may be too much lemon juice in. It's too flavoursome. Like maybe what it really needs is more chickpeas, obviously. That bridge has been burnt at this point, we put all the chickpeas in. Interesting. I'd love to taste this exact batch of hummus cold right now and see if that changed anything, but I can't do that either. There's a difference in flavour when I'd imagine there's a difference in flavour that you get when you soak hard chickpeas overnight, boil them, make it that way, as opposed to just taking chickpeas out of a can. I'd love to know how they handle their chickpeas in industrial hummus. Although I've had a lot of hummus made in a kitchen just like this. That's been really nice. That's been spot on. So I don't think it's something that requires mass production that makes it taste better. It's growing on me. It's definitely growing on me. Let me see. What is it? Is it too... The three flavors are chickpeas, tahini, and lemon juice. This tastes too much like one of those, or maybe two of those. I have absolutely no idea which. It doesn't quite taste right, but I have no idea what's wrong with it. It could just be down to salt, could it? I mean, we frustratingly ran out of salt. That's not going to make a difference. We ran out of salt halfway through making this hummus. I went to the supermarket to buy more salt. I came back 20 minutes later with a shopping basket full of impromptu buys and no salt. I'd forgotten to buy the salt. And so we had to make do with quite a small amount of salt. As I said, I can rectify that tomorrow, I mean, I'm probably not going to eat much of this hummus today because I want to refrigerate it, which I know might be sacrilege. Some people, they probably think, oh, well, hummus is, you're supposed to eat it warm, you're supposed to eat it freshly made. That's what hummus is about. If you refrigerate it, then you're just, indoctrinated by, store-bought hummus. That may well be the case. But anyway, I digress. What is it? What is wrong with this? I could put some more black pepper in. I could put a little bit of black pepper onto a little patch of it and taste a heavily peppered section of it and see if that made it taste any better to me. Not much. A little, but then you're just, I think it's not that. There's a fundamental flaw, much deeper than the amount of black pepper. Although I will put in some more black pepper. Because I just like that. Now I think a thought just occurred to me. Most people thin their hummus out with water, as we've been doing. Some people thin their hummus out with olive oil. Now, I'm thinking I'm an olive oil guy, and maybe that's what it's missing for me. So, I'm going to put in some olive oil. I'm going to see what happens. Okay, here goes nothing. It looks great. I mean, there's nothing like the look of olive oil on hummus. It looks absolutely sensational, especially with the black pepper. Okay, that's a fair bit of olive oil now. So let's see what that does to the equation. Definitely don't want to send this olive oil flying all over the room. I feel good about this. Even though I may just have made a terrible mistake, but for what it's worth, I feel good about it. Probably not worth much to the viewers at home. Get rid of this guy for now, because if I do thin it out anymore, it will be with olive oil, I think. But I don't think I need to, because this is actually looking quite thin. I don't really want to lose that texture that it has. Let's see if this has made any difference. And you can taste the olive oil, that's for sure. Yeah. That's good. I think I'm gonna have to say, you gotta know when to stop, you know? So, let's lose all of these ingredients. And I am going to go out and buy some salt and put a lot more salt in this. And I think that's going to make a big difference. But I think we're at somewhere pretty good right now. Yeah, that looks really nice. Mm. Mm-mm. Yeah, it needed that little bit of olive oil. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I like that. So we'll call it. That's my first ever hummus that I've made. Let's face it, one of the first things I've ever made in a kitchen full of stuff. Looking forward to the next couple of days of eating it, because I think that will really change my opinion. Right now it's hard to judge it, especially without the salt that I'm going to add later, but I do feel good about it. I like it, and I'm excited to slightly retool the recipe. There's probably a few mistakes that we've made. I actually have done very little research in how to make hummus, so I'm gonna want to go and hit the internet and find out how you're supposed to make hummus. So yeah, but for now, yeah, I think that's it. See you later. So it's a little bit later on. I've been out, I've been drinking. Somewhere along the way, it hit me what was wrong with the hummus. And it's pretty simple. I don't know how I missed this, but one of the main, most important ingredients of hummus is garlic. Completely forgot about that. So that massive big existential crisis I had of what is this, what's wrong with this, it's all uncertain. Garlic, I think. I've gone out, like I said, and I also bought a few other things. So I bought salt. Now I know that the salt wasn't the main culprit for the hummus not tasting quite right, but I think it does need more salt, so I'm going to put a bit more in now. Let's see. And I think it's a subtle flavour that hummus has, but I think a bit of salt will just sort of, bring out some of those flavours a bit. So that's probably enough. And I also actually spotted some cumin in the supermarket. Now I had put some of those Moroccan herbs in, which contained cumin, but this is pure cumin, and it tastes absolutely delicious. So I'm gonna throw in some of this. Now, I've refrigerated my hummus, so it's a lot firmer than before. So let's just get a good lashing of cumin, not too much. But of course, the main thing that we want to do is add garlic. So I'm just going to take the hummus out of the way for a minute. And I've prepared here 4 cloves of garlic. Just to figure out of my head, not from a recipe. I'm using such random proportions of ingredients that it's hard to trace that back to a recipe, but we have 3 big cloves of garlic and then 1 tiny little one for good measure. So I'm just going to chop these up now. Now, I have seen a few YouTube tutorials for making hummus, which suggest that you should use a pestle and mortar and almost puree your garlic rather than chopping it like I'm doing, because it gets all oily and you're really releasing all of those oils into the mix. Now, I don't know if I can sort of mirror that to some extent by taking all of my chopped garlic and mushing it about, maybe with the back of a spoon or with my knife, but initially I'm just going to chop it up. I think a lot of people tend to really puree their garlic because they don't like getting chunks of garlic in their mouth while they're eating anything, but definitely hummus. For me, that's not necessarily an issue. although I haven't experienced it in hummus, but generally speaking, when I'm eating something and I get a big old chunk of garlic in my mouth, it's kind of a treat more than a disaster. So I probably am not going to worry too much about really pureeing these. But if it is about releasing the oils more so, then maybe I should give them a little bit of a mashing when I'm finished. So just trying to get this garlic chopped as finely as possible. It's one thing that I actually quite enjoy doing in terms of cooking, is chopping garlic. I don't know why, but you know, you make these little grids, chop them one way, chop them the other way, and I don't know, it's kind of relaxing. So let's see, most of them done. Now, while I was out drinking, for one reason or another, call it fate, call it what you will, but I ended up eating some hummus. And the second I ate it, it was like a light bulb went off over my head. Garlic. Incredibly important. Now, I'm probably gonna, in my excitement about that revelation, I'm gonna probably overcompensate and put too much garlic in. This looks like a lot of garlic, but you'll remember that I've made a lot of hummus. Kind of too much hummus. I think next time I'll make less hummus, because now I'm going to have a fridge full of hummus. Several store-bought. I find it very hard to say the phrase store-bought for some reason. But several store-bought hummuses, which were already there before today, and now this homemade hummus, of which I have quite a lot. We're almost there. On a last clove of garlic. Just line them up for chopping. And one last tiny little bit. So I'm going to puree it again. And what the hell, we'll give this a little mashing, we'll see what happens. I think I'll use a spoon for this, because the knife is going to be a little bit hard, kind of parallel with the surface. So, you know, a big hard spoon should do the trick. Okay, here we go. Could be doing this completely wrong, but it looks alright to me. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Might just get them a little bit more open. Might be counterproductive. I might lose all of those lovely oils on the wood of this chopping board. But sure, we'll see what happens. Just wipe that off. And there we go. I think we're ready to add that to the hummus. Okay. Freshly coriandered hummus. And this really should be it. This should hopefully be the final ingredient which completes it, because now I have added everything. The only thing I could say is, after this stage, it may still need more salt. Haven't actually really seen any directions of an amount of salt. As you might imagine, people tend to recommend salt to your own personal taste. But I don't really know what my own personal taste of amount of salt in hummus is yet. But I suppose that's the point of this whole project. Although, I have no idea how much salt I put into this, so I won't really be able to improve on that next time, but I suppose next time I'll measure it. This is just sort of a initial attempt. So this is looking pretty good. Got a bunch of garlic, a bunch of cumin. You know what? All this talk of salt. Maybe want to put a little bit more salt on top of this. And of course, anything that I eat the hummus with is probably going to be salty, or I'm going to salt it. So don't need to worry too much about the amount, but I think a little bit more probably wouldn't go astray. And now we have our old friend, the food processor. I'm just going to go straight in on top of all that garlic and start pureeing it. I think this is finally the culmination of this project. I can't believe I forgot the garlic. I mean, it's one of the main ingredients. If you ask anyone, how do you make hummus, they're going to say chickpeas, tahini, garlic, lemon juice. Oh, this is looking good. This is looking sensational. What I love about hummus is it looks great while you're making it. You know, you're not making it and going, you know, just a blob of red stuff. It's constantly visually stimulating. So, I mean, that's pleasing as you make something, to be enjoying the look of it, to be enjoying the texture. You could almost not eat it. You know those little sand things that you pull a little rake through to calm you down, you know, have it on your desk in your office. It's that kind of textural perfection, and it's looking really, really good. And now it's cold, actually, so my earlier complaints of not being able to judge the flavor properly, what with it being warm, will no longer stand. Let's get this really mixed up. Yeah. Okay. Should I mix it more? It's hard to say. Let's just give it a taste. I'm going to grab some bread. Okay. Will there be a big difference? If there's not, I can always add more garlic. It's now cold, more salted, and has garlic. Lots changed. Okay. It's better, but I'm a little underwhelmed. I was really hoping that this was going to be the, oh yes, perfect, I nailed it. Distinctly better. Wait a minute, maybe it is done. I just feel like I've come so far with this bowl of hummus that I can't judge it anymore, you know? It's like... It's ridiculous. Me and this bowl of hummus, we've been through so much. I don't know anymore. It's like... It's just, I put it in my mouth, and no information goes to my brain in terms of analysis. It tastes good. I think it's right. I just think I have to cut my ties with this bowl of hummus because it's getting ridiculous at this point. I don't think I've ever analysed anything as deeply as I have with this bowl of hummus, including books that I studied in secondary school. But it tastes really good. I think I got it. I think I nailed it. This bread I'm eating is not the best. It doesn't work so effectively because it's got bits in it. Where's that? I bought I bought bread earlier, which hopefully is better. Let me grab some of that. What I mean is the bread has seeds and grains, so much of this is the texture. Let's break up a big old part of this. Okay. Yeah, this is good. This is good bread. This is perfect for hummus. Probably made with olive oil even. Okay. I could potentially put in a little more cumin, but it's like it'll never be right. it's like when you're like painting a picture, and it's like it's never finished. You're just done with it. That's what artists often say. This is good. This is good hummus. I like this. Yeah. This is delicious. This is fantastic. So simple. Garlic. That was it. Does it need more salt? That's the question. I don't think so. No, I don't need more salt. I'm done. This is it. I'm really happy with this. Took some doing. The next episode, I hope to make hummus more seamlessly, and maybe I'll make the exact same hummus, but even better. And then I'll go into some more different varieties, different ways you can take it. I'm really happy with this first attempt, and I'm really glad that I had that revelation of the garlic. So here's the hummus, and yeah, that's the end of the episode basically. So bon appetit.